The WWC, what the world is watching.
Welcome into the WWC, QB18 here, and today we are covering the DVA Awakening skill. Now, earlier with all the videos that were coming out, most people actually got this wrong because they rushed out with the videos. Not their fault, because the version that was originally tested was the launch version and not the version sitting in the game right now. The developers, with the patch, they changed how DVA's Awakening worked. Originally, follow-up attacks prioritized front row targets, and now they prioritize back row targets. So after spending all this time testing in our sandbox arena, we have pre, we have post, we have post-update DVA. And after doing all of this testing, not only did we find DVA to be stronger than we originally thought, but that some of the best air formations may have changed. So today we're going to show you exactly what changed, what the numbers say, and whether DVA's Awakening is actually worth investing in. But before we do, let's quickly look at the skill and remind ourselves as a refresher what it does. So in Ace Boost, she's going airborne for a second, then Ace Boost inspired by allies for each aircraft hero in your squad. The hero gains 1 stack of boost, right? And that stack increases the attack speed by 20%, stacking that 5 times. Now, in addition, each auto attack also triggers a follow-up attack, prioritizing back row enemies and dealing energy damage. So, attack speed scaling based on the aircraft heroes in your lineup. There's the follow-up attacks that we have to take into account. Then there's additional damage that ramps with the air-heavy formations. The key point here, the more aircraft heroes you are running, the stronger the Awakening becomes. And that's important because a lot of people are running 4+1 formations with Murphy and air. That may not be the long-term answer anymore, and I think the developers were targeting it. Every non-air hero reduces your attack speed scaling, and that's built directly into the Awakening. Now, when the Awakening was first released and it was targeting front row, it wasn't as powerful. And the developers knew this. They went back, and I think what they were trying to target originally with the front row is the damage dealer front row lineups. But then it weakened the Awakening by doing so because the damage dealers are still in the back. So instead, they prioritized the back row targets. And at first glance, it didn't necessarily sound like it was going to be a big deal. But when you think about who lives in that back row, DVA, Morrison, Skylar, Kim, Stetman, Marshall, the biggest damage dealers in the game are back there. So instead of attacking the tanky heroes, you're now applying pressure directly to damage dealers. And that changes the entire value of the skill when you look at the numbers. So let's do that. Now here is our formation comparison sheet. A lot of these numbers we like to run on live, and we don't hand pick the numbers that we want. We actually do a lot of testing. So from this testing we did, on the left, you can see it's pre-unawakened, phase 1. And in the blue is post-awakened. This was phase 2. And then we have the yellow, which is phase 3 numbers and the different formations. So some of these best formations I want to point out. DVA back left. DVA back left, that's been a theme because on our original video that we made on air formations, DVA back left was enormous from a power damage perspective. And again, it rears its head here. So a couple scenarios we ran. Here's the second formation, which was DVA back left. And you can see here, pre-awakening, she was 67. She shot to 72 and then to 78. The team in itself went from 172 damage to 176 and then to 184. Nice increases across the board. Now, in this formation, we switch Lucius to the left and Carly to the right in the front. And again, DVA back left. And we see 65 for before, 71, and then shot up to 80 post-patch. Again, overall, team did an incredible amount of damage, 167 to 172, and then to 187 post-patch. The third lineup where we had Diva back left that executed strongly was with Morrison front right and Carly front left. This produced Diva at 64 pre, 71 when the Awakening launched, and then ultimately 75 post. The damage numbers as a team went up 171, 188 to 191. And what was very interesting is how the post patch impacted front right Diva. So before the patch, we had a 57 average. Then post patch, we went up to 64. And then we dropped to average of 62. What was a greater point was the entire team suffered from this. So if you look at the pre, we were 172. We bumped up to 185 when the Awakening dropped. And then we ended up at 176. So we lost almost 9. Another thing our testing showed was how much more effective Lucius is on the left instead of the right in the front. So when we ran all of these and had Carly on the left and Lucius on the right, if you could see in this formation, Carly and Lucius left, right, you had 9, you had 9s, and then you had a 9 and Lucius with 10 on the right. When we looked at Carly again on the left, 9s, 9s, and then 9s, right? And then we go to the third one, which was Carly and Lucius on the left, 9s, Carly 10 and 9, and then 9 and 8 for Lucius. Now, when we switch them, you can see the difference in what happened here. Immediately, they shoot up. Remember, they were 8s. Now, even before the pre, you're already, instead of 16 combined, this is 20 combined. Now that goes to 19 combined and then 21 combined post. Let's do that again in the second run with the back row shifted around. Again, 20, 19, and then ultimately 21 post patch. And then the third one with the back mixed again, you end up with 19, 21, and 21 for the front. So Lucius was better. When they're both in the front, Lucius was better on the left. And lastly, I will just sum up the numbers to show you across all our 8 formations and all of our testing that we did. The pre-team was 166 million damage they were doing, and Diva was doing 56 million. That moved from 166 to 176 post, with Diva increasing from 56 to 63. And finally, the post patch was 180, which moved up 4 million overall as the team, but really, Diva moved from 63 to 66 average. So all of this fit in what the developers were looking for. It increased the damage. Now let's talk about how this could impact everybody's favorite lineup, the Murphy 4+1. First of all, Global Expedition, a couple points. We are doing testing on live where the audience is picking the best lineup to pick the computer. And if they do, $25 in bricks for every time the computer is beat. Come join live. Secondly, I want to talk about the global formation. Core card, your monster card, impacts this arena. But I will tell you, when it's originally released, don't use the core card to get the most chests immediately. What I will say is hold off, because once you use the core card, you only get 15 minutes to sandbox. And then you have to wait for the card again, as opposed to you can use the card on the last day to get the most. And in the meantime, you can sandbox all different lineups until that final day. Then the final day, use the core card, use those best lineups that you found, get the most out of them in using that. And you were able to test a long time. So now let's talk about how this is going to impact Murphy from my eyes. What I foresee happening is the attack speed 20% with the stack that you lose by using Murphy only gets larger as you move these Awakening stars. So 2 stars, you don't see as much of an impact, although you do start to see it go down, the damage that was happening. However, at 4 stars, when her damage bumps to 40%, losing that additional attack speed is going to be big, is going to be a big stack to lose with that much damage. So I don't see Murphy as a viable 4+1 with air. Carly already was performing well against stronger tank squads, And I think as we look at these testings now and seeing them start to go down with power already, I don't think that Murphy would be a viable option for anybody looking to increase Diva's Awakening stars. So last, let's talk about who should be investing in Diva and when and how do we do this. Well, first of all, free to play, low spend, you're on T1, right? So everything goes into your T1. If Air is your T1, Diva's Awakening skill is fantastic. You're going to love it. Invest in it and go all in on your T1. You're going to anyway, right? I mean, that's the smart play. Your second team, if you are able to get that exclusive to 20 for Kim, I would recommend it. I would unlock that for a second team. Now, if you are playing with 3 teams, I recommend your third team would be 2 stars, your second team would be 2 stars, and your first team would be as many stars you get, at least a 4. And so it may be that you want to use on your first team to get that 40% damage bump before upping any of the other ones past 2 stars. And then get them all to 4, 4, 4, and then get them to 5, 5, 5. If you are using 3 teams. And that is all our DVA Awakening points. I hope that helps with your setting your lineups and going on from our testing. We will be doing the same exact testing with Tesla as we bring him into the sandbox and do our global expedition lineups and testing. If you are interested in the spreadsheet that I shared, I will have it on our discord.gg/join WWC. You can see it in our season 6 chat. I will share it with the group. With that, QB18 out.